McVay said after the game, our star players. What'd you notice, John, watching the Niners star players on Monday Night Football?
Well, I mean, let's face it, Deebo's kind of become a star this year. I mean, he's taken his game to a completely different level. And I know the stats back it up, but the eye test, he is a dominant force.
We're glad you're watching our video. Take a moment to like. We're glad you're watching our video. We'd really love if you took a moment to like it and subscribe to this channel.
Yep, because you know that 50% of you watching right now are not subscribed. Make sure you do that and check out the podcast below in the description.
Thanks to our sponsor, Tito's Handmade Vodka.
#1 vodka in America. I mean, just an elite player. That touchdown, I mean, I'm thinking they're up huge. I think it's 24-7, and it's in the fourth quarter. I'm going, Kyle, I'm as pro going for it on fourth down as anyone. I'm just like, punt the ball. And he goes for it on 4th and 6. He scores a touchdown.
At the 40. At the Rams 40.
It was crazy. And it was, but it wasn't, once it was in Deebo's hand, it wasn't that crazy. I thought, no. I mean, the decision to me was just a little crazy because like, why are we just keep running the ball? They can't even beat you. They're down 3 scores. What are we doing? But it's like, boom, Deebo. He's just a dominant player. And the other guy that is just truly an unstoppable force is George Kittle. Like there's really, Waller is such a different player than him. He's really more of a true wide receiver. Kelsey's more of, I'm not. This is gonna sound bad because he's a Hall of Famer. Is a little more finesse, though he's a physical guy, but he's not. George is looking to destroy people when the ball's in his. No one wants to hit George, and it takes 3 guys to bring him down. Now that's part of the reason he misses games every season. But did you see the highlight that went viral of him blocking Von Miller?
Yes, it got a little chip, but still, it looked like it double broke Von's legs.
Destroyed him. But he's done that so many times over the years. Now, Vaughn is probably a better matchup than, let's say, a Bosa brother. He's a little small. He's just leaner, a little smaller. It's just, but you had to be thinking, Les Snead's we gave up 2nd and 3rd, and this guy can't even just hold the point against George?
Yeah, I mean,
You're right. He got hit from the side. It might have thrown off his balance a little bit.
Was it Juszczyk that came over?
It looked like a tackle might have, Trent gave him one of these, or maybe it was Juszczyk hitting him on the way by. He got slammed.
Yeah, I mean, I think you would add Bosa to that.
He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Von Miller got slammed.
He's not that guy today, but
no,
he is a first ballot Hall of Famer. What you just described is why when Kittle's healthy, there's a debate about him or Kelsey. When he's not healthy, A, because Kelsey's on the field, it's easy to argue Kelsey, and B, he's not on the field, so that you say Kelsey. Part of the reason maybe Kelsey doesn't miss games is because that he plays a less physical, quote unquote, if that's possible in football. It's all relative style than George. The irony being George's been hurt.
They definitely don't ask him. They definitely don't ask him to be in the trenches probably as much as George, right? And they don't run the ball.
No, they don't.
Not
maybe
Andy's
they would.
Not Mr.
Would Andy run the ball more if he had Kittle, or would he just prefer to have
a little
Kelsey?
More. I mean, he had great players in Philadelphia. He was throwing the pill around a lot. He likes throwing to the running backs. That's his run game.
And
Kyle doesn't run that many screens.
Kyle runs the ball to his receivers.
Yeah.
So Andy likes to throw to running backs. Kyle runs the ball to Deebo. He'll throw him for Deebo. He doesn't throw running back screens as much, but he'll do Deebo screens, Ayuk screens, right?
Yeah.
He'll do receiver screens more than running back screens, it seems like. Deebo Samuel right now is 3rd in the NFL in total yardage. Jonathan Taylor is 1. Cooper Kupp is 2. Deebo Samuel is 3. Cordero Patterson is 4.
Having a hell of a season.
Derrick Henry is 5.
He racked up a lot of yards in about 6 games.
So, Deebo.
Did you tell me Derrick Henry leads the league in rushing still, and he's missed multiple games now?
Yeah, I did tell you that. It turns out I think he's actually tied. He's at a tie at 937 with Jonathan Taylor, but yeah, still. He actually has let me do the math here, 39 and 19 20 40. So 60 more carries than Jonathan Taylor. Derrick Henry does right now.
Jonathan Taylor's pretty sweet.
But Deebo is, he's one of the best players in the NFL, and he's playing like it. He's not one of the best players based on production. Is Cooper Kupp a top 5 offensive player?
It's hard. I mean, his production would say yes, but when you watch him, you go, I'd rather have Devontae Adams. Like, I'd rather have CeeDee Lamb. Yeah, I'd rather have Justin Jefferson. Like, would the Niners straight up trade Deebo Samuel for Cooper Kupp? You would say, well, based on numbers and stuff, but it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Cooper's got 85 catches. Like, Cooper has had a full season. He's played a full season, basically, NFL production.
If the season ends and Les Snead calls Spielman, goes, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp straight up, they hang up, right? The Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb would not.
Well, I think like the Niners would say no. Cooper for Deebo, right?
They would. CeeDee Lamb, no. Mike Evans, no. You know, you just go around the league, you're getting a lot of no's, even though his production more than likely is going to be better than all these guys. And I'm not, again, it feels like we're shitting on the guy's a really good player, him. But he's just not, it's a unique circumstance.
Well, and I think Deebo's a unique player. That's part of the point of this. I saw somebody in the chat, I can't find it, says, Deebo is everything we hoped Percy Harvin would be. I don't know that I quite realized exactly how much. I think it's hard to be a Swiss Army knife when you're great at something. And it's hard to be great at something if you're a Swiss Army knife. And Deebo is both. Deebo is great and a Swiss Army knife. And that combination, you don't get that combination a lot.
I feel like a lot more people had Swiss Army knives when we were growing up than people.
Yeah, I mean, you were constantly, cutting some ropes to get in a gate or.
Yeah.
I don't know. My dad had for a period of my younger life, so like the 90s, had like a Leatherman on his belt. You remember, a Leatherman? It's like a nice Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
He always had a Leatherman. Like we were about to, I don't even know. I don't even remember what he was always doing with his Leatherman. Well, he always had it, and he used it all the time. Yeah,
there was just less, you couldn't just go on your phone and YouTube how to fix something. You just needed some shit ready to go, right? Because it had it always had the bottle opener. So if you wanted a little bottle of wine, but you could also had the multiple things to like break into a house, but also cut a rope.
Yep, screwdriver had the screwdriver on it. Had the
I would imagine. Wouldn't you venture to guess the Swiss Army knife production has just gone down over the years?
Sales, you think, are a little low?
Yeah, I just would imagine they've dipped.
Yeah. That's what I would do if I were like a handyman. I'd be on like one of those apps where people hire handyman, and all I'd ever show up with is I can do anything with it. Anything a Swiss Army knife can do is what you can hire me to do. So
like MacGyver?
Yeah, like MacGyver. So but do you agree? Like it feels like most guys who do everything, it's the old saying, right? Jack of all trades, expert of none. Is that what it is? Expert?
Yeah, jack of all trades, master
of none. Yeah, master of none. But he's a master of. It feels like he's a master of everything he does.
Yeah, he's become, a star player for them. And that's what I think was kind of frustrating is they were wasting a season. Now, granted, when Kittle's around, their offense becomes dramatically better. It really was last week. They were just fumbling the ball. Like you felt Kittle's presence in that Arizona game. He changes their franchise. And I think sometimes when he's missing, you start questioning it, and it's when he's back you really value his importance. I mean, he's very, very important to Kyle's offense. He really is. And obviously, one guy we talked a lot about before the season, they've had some players now, George missed games. Obviously, McGlinchey tore his quad, which when you just say that out loud, you're like, that had to hurt, right? I can't imagine the pain that goes through tearing a quad. But Bosa, we talked a lot about in August, how many games would you sign up for? He's played in every game. He has 8 sacks. And there could be some games late in the season, right? You start playing some of the shittier teams. He could have a couple double-digit, 2 sack. All of a sudden, could he get to like 16 sacks on the season? Like that's everything you want. And you just watch him play. He kind of has to. It feels at times like he has to do everything on his own. Like they don't have too many other guys like creating pressure.
Hey, we've had our last 9 locks of the week in a row, and we've been hitting it at mybookie.ag, promo code HAM and the number 1.
Hey, are you a small business owner? Are you looking to hire? Go to Indeed.com/ham, $75 off your first job post. Like there's not just like, there's 94 doing shit. There's even Eric, it's like 91. Where is he? You see him standing there. He plays hard, but he's not Mr. like smoke a guard and get in the backfield really fast.
Yeah.
So, their team is dramatically different than that 19 team that felt like they were in the backfield every other series. They don't feel like that quite anymore. But Bosa
not only
coming around the edge.
Yeah. If I had a mental image of that team, it'd be the pocket being like 2 feet wide because the whole thing was just you were getting swallowed up.
You had the 2'6'8" guys coming at you, and then you had these speed demons coming off the edge, and it was just you'd get engulfed. Those guys were huge, the two of them combined.
Yeah. Yep.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, remind me, do you remember what we set the number at the beginning of the year? Like if you had, what would be a great year for Bosa? I think we said
I thought like 13 sacks. You know, I think
I was going to say I thought we said 15, but 15 is really high. But yeah, I mean,
helps though.
Right now, the league leader in sacks is Myles Garrett with 13. TJ Watt has 12.5. Harold Landry of the Titans has 10. Judon 9.5. Good signing. Hassan Reddick 9.5. Marcus Golden 9. And Bosa has 8. Trey Hendrickson has 8.5 for Cincinnati.
I saw
white guy named Trey, by the way.
He's good. I saw someone tweet Judon's just production, his sacks, his tackles for losses. They're like, this is what a good signing looks like. And if you just watch the Patriots, you're like, there's 9. He's everywhere. He's always wearing long sleeves. That guy's a beast. Pretty good player. Good signing, Belichick.
He looks the way you're supposed to look, like you said, in a single digit. Some guys look weird in a single digit. He looks good in a single digit.
Yeah, if you go, where'd he come from? You just guess, like, probably the Steelers or the Ravens. You're like, yeah, he came from the Ravens. Ozzie finds those guys. He does.
Just they have the same. It's just Alabama types. Where did Judon go to school?
Honestly, I'd never heard of him before he.
I'm going to close my eyes and say Mississippi State.
Not even close. Grand Valley State.
Huh?
Grand Valley State. He was a 5th-round pick out of Grand Valley State. And
where
it's
is
not
that?
Like he's. Grand Valley State is in Michigan. It's where Brian Kelly used to coach. They were like the powerhouse. But it's not like, oh, I bet he's from just a little town in Michigan. No, he grew up in Baton Rouge. So maybe he was just a big-time late bloomer.
Wow.
You don't see many elite defensive players that aren't from, at minimum, like non-Power 5 programs. That's pretty rare. I would say that's the one position group, for the most part, that's coming from Power 5.
Just like power, like.
And even if it's a random Power 5, like the kids from Baylor, the guys from Oregon State or something, it's not like Division II. You're not finding Division II defensive linemen.
Like you're finding receivers, yeah.
Or even DBs or whatever. Where's DJ Jones from?
SEC.
Stephen Heat. Yeah, he's from Ole Miss. I bet the Niners defensive linemen like D Ford, Auburn, Armstead, Oregon, Bosa, Ohio State, him, Ole Miss, Arden Key, LSU, Maurice Hurst. He's injured, but Michigan. Like most of their group is, Power 5. The kid they traded for we talked about being the underachiever, Texas. You're not scouring UC Davis for like, they got a pass rushing D tackle. No, they don't. They might have a punter though. They have a smart safety. The D tackles ain't ended up there because most D tackles don't just become D tackles at 20, right? They look pretty good at 17.
Well, what was the thing? Max Crosby was 11 pounds at birth, right?
Well, one of the things that was interesting about that game is that the Chiefs' third-string tackle went to school with Max Crosby.
Yeah, they went head-to-head on a couple plays.
And I was like, that's probably a good matchup for a backup that feels very confident. Think how many reps those two guys have taken. Clearly, probably the best 2 players on the team, right?
Yeah.
At wherever, Eastern Michigan or wherever the hell he went.
Yeah. An interesting conversation going on in the chat. Brady says Kupp is a better receiver than Deebo. Deebo is a gadget guy. And then Mike says, Brady, Kupp, you can argue is a better pure receiver. I also think in a high pass offense, hard to compare what Deebo and Kupp do for their respective offenses. I do think both coaches would be able to use the other guy, obviously. They're similar.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp is
anybody
a
can use both
player.
These guys.
Cooper Kupp is, I don't want to say star. He's a fantasy star. Would I take him over the top guys? I would not, but he also signed, I think his contract was like one of those team-friendly type deals, like a 3-year, $47 million deal. Like, are the Niners getting Deebo 3 years, 47 after this year?
I'm going to go with no.
So, like, would the Niners sign up for this? 3 years, 47, $6 million signing bonus, 35 guarantees. How fast would Parag do that deal?
Yeah, I mean, that'd be less than Kittle got, right?
I think Kittle got, remember, I think Kittle was like 32.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be paying him like a tight. Are the Niners going to argue that he's like?
Well, I'm just saying. Well, no, but I'm saying that's what Cooper Kupp got. Like,
I'm just saying, are the Niners giving him carries so then they can argue in arbitration that he's a running back?
The problem is he's going to have so many receptions they'll be screwed. What would you guess Deebo Samuel, like who they can extend after this season, would get?
What did Amari get? 60?
He got 160 guaranteed.
I mean, Deebo is going to be, if he keeps going, he's going to be top 5 in the league in yards this year.
Would you do I'd go a little shorter. 480. Would he sign this? 480, 40 guaranteed? 20 a year?
Where does that put him among receiver contracts?
Well, remember Devontae Adams was kind of, he needs to get a new contract. It's going to be astronomical. DeAndre
he's a true free agent, right?
Who is?
I mean, I guess they could Devontae.
Yeah. Remember, DeAndre Hopkins threw everything off because he signed that deal with the Arizona Cardinals. It was like 2 years, and it was like 45, so it averaged like 22. But they were saying it was like a fake deal. Devontae was like, I deserve 25, and the Packers like, well, that's not true average per year. The average per year normal is Amari at 20. Because I don't think Deebo's been doing it long enough to be at that number. Can they get him at 18 a year?
Man, that feels like a number I would sign if I were him. 18 a year.
I'd do the DeAndre Hopkins deal. Just give him 2 years, like $45 million guaranteed.
Why would he do that?
He's been hurt. But basically, just guarantee every penny.
Julio is 64. Julio got 64 guaranteed. Mike Evans 55.
You notice where Julio is right now?
Is he hurt?
Yeah, he's on injury reserve.
Yeah,
with his hamstring, which it's always his hamstring.
Well, and historically with Deebo, you've had some of those soft tissue injuries. I mean, I think he's getting at least the floor's got to be like.
Because he's a second-round pick, so he's going to be going into his last year of his contract. They're historically they sign guys like this early.
So maybe he gets 30. Yeah, maybe he gets 40 guaranteed.
So would you do the 480, 40 guaranteed, 20 a year?
If I'm the Niners?
Does this feel a little rich?
Feels pretty rich.
It does.
But
he hasn't been doing it that long.
No, but he looks like one of the best players in the NFL.
No.
That's what he is.
That's where you balance. It's like part of being a best player in the NFL is like Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams. These guys do it year after year. Even you got to give Amari credit, right? Amari's put together a large body of work at this point. Deebo's body of work is relatively small.
Yeah, so maybe it is 38, 37. I kind of feel like a win. But
if you get him for 35, I mean, you're doing jump through hula hoops. But you're still, to me, is just one. Okay, a lot of players have had the one healthy year. Can you put together like 4 straight healthy years? And even like if you're one miss, like Devontae's had miss a game here and there, we can live with that. Like if I'm a coach or a GM, can you? But are you gonna miss like 4?
Yeah.
It's hard to blame Kittle as much because he's been taken out by his quarterback on some of the injuries.
I know his injuries aren't even like a result of him being a reckless player.
Yeah, it's like, well, he keeps getting rolled up because you're always asking him to block. Well, that's not what happens. Well, what are his injuries? Well, it's when Jimmy throws and his knees get taken out.
Like Cooper Kupp, John. Like, say what you want. We're debating who's a more talent, who's a better player.
He hasn't missed any games, I would bet.
Yeah, I mean, he's played 16, 15, and this year he's played in every game. He was 94 catches, 92 catches. This year, again, he's 7 catches away from, well, let's say it differently. He's 12 catches. 94 is his career high. Yeah, so he's 10 catches away from setting a new career high for receptions, and he has been a really productive player. It's insane.
Yeah.
Deebo's going to need a big contract if he keeps buying those big-ass chains. I thought Jason Verrett provided that.
Did you see?
Cooper is coming off an ACL. Cooper did have an ACL. That's right.
You see Schefter's Instagram. You see Schefter's Instagram post.
No.
When the Niners come out of the locker room, they come out with the little white guy, the beatbox guy. Who also does the. I think he's also the guy that does at DJ? Practice the DJ. So he comes out with the boombox, blaring tunes. The 2 guys leading the group, and they were together the other, a couple weeks ago at Chase Center. They clearly are buddies.
Deebo and Trent.
Yeah, those two guys. I love it when just like kind of a random friendship, like obviously Trent's older, but you don't go to a basketball game random, like they're buddies, right?
Yeah.
Which is a good thing for Deebo because that's Kyle's like favorite player ever, right? He's no dummy.
Trent has to be consistently one of the biggest stars in the league that just gets no attention.
But isn't that part of being an offensive lineman?
I guess. I feel like people are always talking about Joe Thomas.
Because his team always sucked.
Yeah.
You're right.
I don't know.
I mean, you know what Trent was saying? Like,
people talking about the
Pro Bowls.
Yeah, well, like it was like Larry Allen. People always talking about those Cowboys offensive lines.
I agree. You're right. He even for like an all-time great offensive lineman, he doesn't get talked about that much, and it doesn't seem like he even cares that much.
Doesn't care at all.
He is probably the most low-maintenance star player I've ever really seen. You don't even hear him really talk. Even last night, I saw a clip of him talking like, yeah, anytime you can just run it down people's throats, it's my favorite thing to do. I'm an offensive lineman. But it's like, he's not like he's ever out pumping his chest like I'm an all-time great. Like, he doesn't really talk. He's the opposite of arrogant for a guy that's clearly could be, right?
When is Kyle going to throw him the ball? Because I still think that's coming.
I just wonder if you ever want to risk like him tripping on somebody or getting taken out his knees. I think he's best suited when he gets to impact, right? Just let him. I don't know if you risk that. He's too valuable.